I am here in Seattle, Washington, and it's a rainy Seattle day, which you'll see in a minute. And you're going to notice off to the side, you see Penny Lane. That's because I'm in the Beatles Suite at the famous Edgewater Inn in Seattle. So right now I'm going to turn you over to Kenzie, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the inn. All right, I'm at the famous Edgewater Inn in Seattle, and you see some Beatles memorabilia above the bed there. That's because we're in the famous Beatles Suite where they stayed. Kenzie's going to tell you the rest. So, hi, Kenzie.
So we should probably go back to the beginning of the Edgewater Hotel. We originally were built in 1962 for the World's Fair. And so that was like our main purpose. We were built into the water. It was something that Seattle hasn't really seen before. So you notice that other hotels throughout the area aren't actually in the water, like we're on the edge of the water. So that was kind of our trademark. But since we were mainly built for the World's Fair, we started heading downhill, almost bankruptcy in 1964, around that time. So when the Beatles came into town, they were major rock stars, and not a lot of hotels wanted to take them for that particular reason. We were gonna go broke, unfortunately, and so that meant that we were going to, we were like, you know what, let's just let them in, you know, what's the worst that's gonna happen? So this is actually where the Beatles stayed. It was completely different remodel back then. We just recently remodeled it in like February or April of 2018. So this is all pretty new, except for some of the memorabilia in here. So the record player over there, that's actually been in here since they were in here. So you know, it has Beatle cooties all over it. And then this famous picture of them fishing out of the window was taken here, just right outside this window right over here. But the room, and they had one of the best views in the house for sure. The Edgewater currently now has four floors, but it used to only have 3 floors, and this is one of the biggest suites that we had built into it. So we've definitely added on, recreated and have done a lot of remodeling throughout our hotel since that time period. Now, the room looks completely different. There used to be this delicious shag carpet, very 70s style on the floor, and in order to kind of bounce back from that low time period, we actually cut up the shag carpet into little 1x1 inch square pieces and sold them. And so that was also a form of like revenue for the hotel. So that was really cool. The other thing was when the Beatles were here, it was crazy. So lots of paparazzi. There was even like body doubles, from what I've heard, to help the guys get in and out of cars. The Puget Sound is what's outside, also known as Elliott Bay in this particular area. It is freezing cold. And when the Beatles came, of course, people decided it was a wonderful idea to be jumping into the Puget Sound to try to get a glimpse of the guys. So girls are jumping in, people are throwing things out the window, and so it was a crazy time, but it was definitely like our trademark, which is awesome. So yeah, throughout the room, lots of Beatle memorabilia, and we try to give it that 1970s-ish, 1960s like chic to it. So of course the plaid flooring, and like the leather bed, but yeah, lots of fun things that just kind of recapture like when they were here. So this is where the Beatles hung out, they stayed, and then of course I feel the room was a little too small, so they all had their own individual rooms like right next door to this as well. So if you get a room anywhere close to here, you're probably staying in the same room as John Lennon or Paul McCartney and so on. So that's awesome.
So this was more of a hangout then, like they each had their own room, because so you remodeled the hotel, but you didn't really this room is still in the same location?
Still in the same location. We haven't touched it other than basic remodeling, what we just to clean things up and whatnot. room, like, throughout there's been wear and tear, and we also want to keep up with like the style, but still incorporate that 60s 70s vibe to it.
And they only stayed here once?
I believe so, yes. I don't know if they've came back. I'm actually pretty new to the hotel, but from what I've heard, yes, I think once.
And what year was that?
1964. So they stayed here 1964, and then I'm not sure if they have came back.
Okay, so do you know if there was any damage to the room by them?
I have heard stories. They're a little bit not in my time frame because I was born in 98. But I have heard stories that they did trash the room. I also heard stories this is the place where John Lennon tried pot. I don't know if that's true, but I don't. As far from what I know, there's been back and forth because the hotel has changed hands over a period of time of whether or not they did actually do that. So it's kind of like a historical moment, but from what I've heard, I don't personally believe that they actually like full on trashed the room. They definitely did try to fish out of the window, and things were getting flown out the window for sure. But the paparazzi madness was crazy, but I don't think they went out of their way and like fully trashed everything like everyone thought rock stars were going to do back then.
Well, there's of course the famous Led Zeppelin shark story, which I asked Colin about, and nobody's really confirmed or denied that. But are there any rock stars in particular that did sort of trash this place? Or is there one story that is kind of like, as soon as you started working here, you said you're fairly recent to the hotel, that people like, this is where such and such happened?
No, as far as I know, no. I don't. I feel like all of the celebrities that we have had stay here have been pretty nice to the hotel. I'm not sure about Led Zeppelin. I've heard that, and then Led Zeppelin and a couple other celebrities as well that they may have trashed the rooms, but as far as what I know, nothing crazy.
So you kind of took a chance by letting the Beatles stay here, and it's still in business now, and it's kind of the place.
Because of them, we have now become like a successful hotel. Of course, we've also have done like our own renovations to make it more appeasable to guests. But we definitely took pride in like saying, yeah, we welcome the Beatles. We had them here in Seattle, and we'd love to have them here again. So it was awesome, and we are so grateful that they decided to stay with us due to the city and whatnot.
Well, I hope to stay here someday, and thank you very much for your time and letting me come and see this room. It's usually not available, right?
It is at times. So you can book it online, you can book it in advance. Sometimes it's available. We're more than willing to give tours, and other times you could probably ask the front desk agent for a discounted upgrade, and they could probably get you an upgrade in here for, additional like $500 instead of paying the full $2,000 on top of the room rate you were paying too.
$2,000, that's probably the average price of a month's rent in Seattle.
Yeah, for a studio.
Okay, next episode, maybe the Pearl Jam Suite. But thank you very much for your time, Kenzie. Thank you.